Hello, everybody. We're here with another live stream. Thank you so much for joining us. And today we are here with That Guy T. We are very excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate you bringing me on, guys. Been a minute.
Yeah, it has. It definitely has.
Yeah.
So how have you been today?
Pretty good. Today specifically, not bad. A little rainy in Atlanta, but such as fall.
Yeah.
But aside from that, everything else been pretty good. Been busy.
Oh yeah, you live in Atlanta. How's that?
It's fine.
Fine. Yeah.
Better than California. I can't complain.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of funny though, because we were at this, I guess, gathering where we live, and because Nico was talking about how the ladies next to us, I was completely oblivious to what they were talking about, but she was kind of overhearing what they were saying, and that why they moved from California right to here.
Yeah, everybody is moving here from California. It's like an invasion.
Yeah, we've had a lot of I don't know about Atlanta specifically, but I know I've seen a lot of like southeast states like see an influx of Californians. Some people, I think I heard somebody speculate that they're moving because like companies are relocating, so they're just taking their labor with them. But I don't know, they're fucking shit up. Like they're too opinionated. You're gonna come over, I think we're all okay with that. We don't mind migration, but let's not redo what you guys tried over there. I don't think it went too well.
Yeah, exactly. If it didn't work over there, it's not going to work over here.
Yeah, especially here in Texas, we have guns.
Exactly. California just needs to be the submissive housewife of the country, and we'll be fine.
Right. Maybe they should just secede from the union.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh.
They can start their own little country and see how that goes.
Exactly. Yeah. So we wanted you on because mainly your YouTube videos are fascinating and
mind-blowing.
Yeah, mind-blowing, especially because you're not afraid to challenge. Because I don't know if you do you still consider yourself libertarian, or what do you consider yourself now?
I definitely consider myself a anarcho-capitalist. Libertarian, I am still debating.
Yeah, because you're one that even though you do say that you identify as an anarcho-capitalist, you're not afraid to kind of, I guess, challenge their ideals, or at the very least admit some things. Like, because I was just watching one of your videos recently, how you're saying that even though you identify as an anarcho-capitalist, you're not afraid to say, well, yeah, we are kind of naive in terms of if we how like implementing their ideals. Do you kind of feel that way still, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think a lot of anarcho-capitalists and libertarians alike, and who knows, maybe probably even conservatives and progressives still live in like ideological bubbles to where like they're like in the Facebook groups and they're theorizing, all these crazy hypotheticals of how, the ideal society will work, which I think is fine. However, I think people need to be more practical and strategic in how they like tangibly make change towards that. And by the way, that's not a dog whistle for get out and vote. That's been happening lately. But yeah, I still think that there is a large section of libertarian leaning people who still just sit around and talk ideas without actually thinking of tangible ways to achieve them. Well, not thinking about them, but actually applying whatever skill set they might have to the market and actually creating value, I should say.
Mm-hmm. So then do you think that anarcho-capitalism is actually feasible in today's society, or do you think we're kind of far, like that's something far in the future that could happen?
Absolutely, I think it's feasible. Granted, I don't think it's going to be like most people envision it. I don't think it's going to be unicorns and rainbows. I think it's probably going to be, like, realistically speaking, probably be more closer to like a what's it called, like a transhumanist like Facebook megacorp thing, and you apply for your terms and conditions every year. Like, I think we'll probably see corporation states grow in the near future, probably like the next 20 years. So I think that's probably what's going to be more resembling of a future anarcho-capitalism versus, you know, strictly, I guess the idea of everything is how it is now, but voluntary, and we get rid of the laws we don't like. I think it's going to be a different evolution than a lot of people suspect.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would like, they talk about that as if it's like a scary thing, you know, corporations controlling more of society, I guess, than government. What do you think?
And the thing is, I don't disagree. I think it is, but the reality is that that's probably where we're going to be heading. And I would say the same. I would give the same advice to people who don't believe in narco-capitalism, whether you're conservative or whatever. For example, someone in Venezuela who they know their country, like in the buildup of what's the name, dictator down there, Maduro.
Oh
they
yeah,
were constantly they knew what was coming. The you know, fringe capitalists who, you know, are hiding out down there. God bless them. I would tell them to also be like practical in like addressing their immediate reality. Like, if you know socialism is around the corner, you should probably modify your strategy in terms of what you're going to do to create your ideal society and adapt it to what's really happening. I think libertarians should do the same. And even people who disagree with, like, you know, the corporation state, and they think like, you know, hyper acceleration in technology is a bad thing and all that. That's fine if you feel that way, but the world is going to go in either direction it is. And you can either continue to theorize about how it would be better if that didn't happen, or you could strategically, you know, come up with a plan on how you actually want to go about the future.
Do you think that includes, like, I know like Elon Musk was talking about it on Joe Rogan's podcast, that a lot of things will just be automated and turned to AI, and, you know, corporations are going to control that probably. So
yeah, and I love his quote on that. The what is it? Like the famous Joe Rogan thing. Like, I warned people for so long about AI and nobody listened. It's like, we're probably going to kill ourselves via robots, but luckily that'll be, I don't know, it will be so far progressive and PC down the line that I wouldn't even feel bad.
Yeah, because I was just kind of thinking that with all the technology and how it's been updating so fast, humans would pretty much become obsolete.
Yeah, we'll be in some like Black Mirror paradox. You know, good luck to those guys.
Right.
But
hopefully I won't be alive. That sounds terrible.
How dare you?
Okay.
Tactical nihilism. But I do think that Elon has a good point in addressing that. Well, I actually respect how he comes about it. He doesn't go railing on, maybe he did before, but now he's not railing on about trying to convince people of the dangers of AI, trying to lobby against AI and all these other things. He recognizes it, I assume, based on what he said. He feels that it's a danger approaching, and he's strategizing ways on how to overcome that. So while we're all getting killed by Terminators, he'll probably be on his Mars moon base. We'll be like, damn, this guy actually did something while he was, you know, in pursuit of his ideological ambitions.
So does it kind of annoy you, or maybe just, you know, whenever you look at a tweet and someone goes, "Oh, I actually am okay with these robots overtaking us," and you just go like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" or something like that?
I mean, if you're just a complete nihilist and you just don't care about the way society goes, then you know, I don't know. I can't be mad at you. I could prefer that you were more motivated and, you know, cared about what was going on. But, you know, people are going to be NPCs, then let them be NPCs. You just as a playable character, to use the meme, you have to account for the fact that there are tons of people out there who don't care. So if your ideology, for example, like if your ideal win for society or civilization entails like lobbying an army of people and, like, you know, 1776, we're going to storm the gates of the IRS and all that shit. Ideally cool, but let's be realistic. not enough people care about their taxes being a burden to warrant a revolution, and even fewer care if they were to warrant a revolution, would they fight in your favor of, liberty and prosperity, or, whatever libertarian values or whatever other values somebody may have.
So do you think that government or corporations using government, or maybe just corporations in general, would be more of a concern in the future?
Like as far as like more cronyism?
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm not so sure. I think actually, as like companies get the industry like continues to progress, I think the government is actually going to lend on corporations for subsidy more often than they are in trying to exploit them via bribery. So I don't think the government is really going to try they're not going to really have an incentive to work with corporations voluntarily. I think they're going to have to. I think corporations are probably going to be the next ruling elite over the state. It's the only, and I just base that off of the fact that it's the only medium I've seen, the digital age, to where like we've made so much progress against the state.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I don't know what that is going to look like in the end, but for now, I think it's just something we need to address.
So I think, well, a lot of people who I guess I self-identify as communists or socialists or whatever, at least online anyway, that's like their main concern. So maybe they do have some sort of point, I guess, then.
Their main concern is
like the corporatism is gonna, or companies will rule over us as an elite.
I mean, maybe, but to be honest, I don't think that's the primary concern of most people. Even those who are like strictly like that's all they talk about is railing against corruption and government, things like that. I think people are really concerned on whether their ideology will be subsidized by the state versus if the state is going to subsidize, if state is going to give subsidies, period. I think a communist is much more concerned about, or much more favorable to the idea of letting something slide in regards to if they're pro-choice and Planned Parenthood gets subsidy, or some LGBT group, or I don't know, Socialist for America political party or something like that. They'll probably not lobby as hard against that as they would the military getting new fighter jets or something like that. And I feel that libertarians might be the only group that does lobby against everything universally, regardless of whether it may be working in their benefit long term, in terms of like tangibly, not necessarily decreasing the state, but making libertarianism as a force more real.
It sucks though, because there's so many important issues out there. But you're right. A lot of people either don't care or just maybe don't have the know-how, I guess, in terms of what to do about it. And it definitely seems like, I guess, culture, like for sure, culture is the number one concern, I think, for a lot of people, especially when you look on social media, all they talk about.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's kind of, I guess, sad, but also, I guess, they're looking at what they see in front of them, because when you talk about what's going on in Yemen, they're going to be like, well, I don't see it, so I really could care less, even though I talk about it, and there's other people out there that talk about like Scott Horton and all that, but other than that, yeah,
and that's the reality. I mean, I most people probably don't think about it often, but we make those choices every day. Like I was 100 million times more concerned about getting my Amazon Prime package today than I was about a starving child in Yemen. It's a shit thing to admit, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
It's probably
And,
just human nature.
Yeah, I mean, people have immediate, they pursue immediate gratification. They want things that are going to add immediate tangible value to their life, not necessarily, just for the benefit of, oh, it's the moral thing to do or it's the right thing to do. It's more so practically speaking, what value is this going to add to my goals or what I want to achieve or to be the outcome. And if it doesn't, then people ignore it.
So if anarcho-capitalism is feasible, then what would be the first step in terms of, getting that society to happen here? Like getting rid of the IRS or something like that?
Nah.
No.
I don't.
Darn it.
Yeah, no, right.
But I don't think. I actually don't think that the next, like, down the line, I don't think the proper course of action is going to be remove state institutions or try to get them destroyed or abolished or anything like that. I think we just have to create more opportunities and more ways for people to circumvent those things.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not a lobbyer of cryptocurrency strictly for tax evasion, but I will be lying if I didn't say that is down the road something that we could hope for.
Right.
And also like decentralizing like control of currency, making new avenues of like, instead of trying to lobby to like end subsidy for taxi companies and things like that, just strategically use taxis less, especially because it's an industry that's heavily subsidized by states and city governments, usually just drifting towards inventions like Uber and ride sharing and stuff like that, I think is more constructive in decreasing the state than trying to get a bill passed to say, I don't know, let's take 5 million off of whatever government organization's budget this year.
Yeah, I've heard this argument before where if you completely just get rid of a program altogether, people would be absolutely frightened and they're like, I don't know what to do. Like, if you just got rid of everyone's welfare checks, just, all of a sudden, no more welfare checks. Everyone's going to be like, oh my God, what the fuck do I do now? I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think if it's like a gradual downgrade to where, maybe your welfare check just gets lower and lower, maybe that'll give you more of an incentive to be like, okay, maybe I have to do something and try and get an income instead of having to rely on the government all the time.
Possibly. That is definitely one way to go about it. But typically, unless we just get a straight right-wing House, Senate, presidency, whatever, then there's probably going to be some people in government positions who are going to appeal to those groups who are, who find it much easier to just say like, hey, we need more Gibbs versus, tangibly finding ways to bring in more revenue in their life. But I think that one thing that a lot of people just need to really consider is the fact that I might have just lost this thought, but let me see if I can get it back.
Well,
the fact that at narco-capitalists, if you are a narco-capitalist or somebody who wants to decrease the government or abolish the government or whatever, instead of just pointing out to people why the government is bad, think of ways that the market could be more valuable than the state in terms of providing any service, good, feeling, anything.
Like the roads?
The roads for sure.
I was gonna build the roads.
But also, like more like in terms of like thinking like more culturally, things like the idea of like representative democracy, like feeling that you have to go through this process to have your voice heard or to feel like you're a part of a bigger system than just yourself.
Well, doesn't that annoy you when everyone just tries to tell you to go vote without knowing what the fuck you're voting for?
Yeah, it drives me crazy. Actually, you guys might have seen it. I made a little meme video in regards to my mom hassling me to vote for Stacey Abrams this year. It just wasn't happening. But yeah,
her quote unquote like concession speech was just, I don't know what the hell people were thinking.
a concession. I mean,
Yeah, I know. That's why I said quote unquote concession. Oh, this isn't a concession speech, but I acknowledge that Mr. Kemp will be the next blah blah blah. But I still gonna fight. Nah. It's like you're
that's one thing that I do love about Trump's presidency is
God.
that the appeal to like I guess quote unquote like political traditionalism and like proper mannerisms and proper etiquette and decorum and just the way politics is typically supposed to go, like boomer politics.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is more comfortable saying "fuck that" now. That I think that's why Kemp, with his incredibly problematic boomer ads,
Right.
won the election. But for some reason, Democrats, progressives are too stupid to figure this out. They still want to go through shit like Justice Democrats, where it's like, oh, we just need to be, more inclusive, and we have to have more LGBT members on our platform, and it's really mind-boggling. I think like a lot of people on the right can recognize how the left could do better, but they just don't do it. So I don't know. Maybe the Democrats are spending a lot of money on campaigns in 2020. There'll probably be some good, a good market for some consultations. Any you political commentators out there who might want to, just bring in a few bucks to give some old boomer Democrats some decent advice. They're definitely going to be shelling out more on that than they probably were this year on like Beyonce and Diddy fucking crip walking across the stage or whatever.
You can promise an Obama phone. So there was a question in the chat, and I've actually wanted to ask you about this too, but and it's about the libertarian debate on borders, because I've heard a lot of libertarians have different kind of viewpoints on it.
Well, and caps too. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, and caps too. So, and I guess the same thing with abortion. There's a lot of different viewpoints on that. So there's not one real concrete, position? Position. Yeah. So what would you say is your concrete position on borders?
As far as like should we have them?
Like country borders, yeah.
Yeah.
I think borders are I don't know if I would say necessary. I would say they're practical for a lot of people. They're desirable. They create incentives on their own. So even if, absent a border, somebody wouldn't value it, the fact that it exists now, they have a reason to value it. So I think that borders are kind of inevitable. And in some ways, I think even though I'm in some ways I sympathize in wanting, free migration in terms of labor and commerce and trade and all that good stuff. I still do. I will say I recognize a value in disregarding the border debate from me personally, because at the moment I think my immediate in this moment in time, my immediate goal is trying to shift the culture of the Black community more, in a better direction than it is now. And also trying to ensure more, financial opportunities in that. And if I was to take away time and, brain power trying to find solutions for that, to instead lobby for, another demographic to come into the country, it's just not practically beneficial for me. Morally, it might be right that they should be able to come to the country if you feel that. But again, I don't think just talking about it doesn't really do anything. So if you're really serious about it, then that can be your project. But I think it's just a lot more practical to just say that, hey, these people have a desired goal, the caravan or whatever. They want to get into America. Some people agree, some people disagree. You know, there's going to be pushback. We have a military and a government, a state, and, you know, a vast majority of the country who are vehemently opposed to the idea of free migration. So for people who are immigrants who are trying to get in, I would just give them the advice of, or not the advice, but the good wishes of like, good luck. I hope you figure out what you're trying to do. But just know that I wouldn't want them to see animosity towards their idea of getting to America just because I don't find practical benefit in exuding time and energy to lobby for it, to help them out in that goal.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, especially like if you can't really do anything about it, why waste time talking about it when you can be doing other things, you know?
Yeah, because it seems like you have you know, a more direct goal in mind, so you're going to focus your time on that, which is great.
Yeah, and it's not to say that, you know, in pursuit of that direct goal, I can't also find ways to, you know, try and assist these groups of people. Like, for example, like right now, professionally, I'm doing some marketing work. So who knows? I could, if I wanted to, put together a video campaign or ad or something for, you know, open borders or whatnot. And who knows, that may assist in shifting the culture one way or the other. But me debating with some other libertarian in New Hampshire in a Facebook group that's closed and about whether or not, you know, hypothetical Ancapistan is going to have police dogs or flowers on their border with Canada, it doesn't make sense. It's like, why are you doing this? Like, I can't see somebody actively justifying to me how that's a practical use of their time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of like the problem in the libertarian community is we end up debating each other so much that we don't really do anything.
Yeah, a lot of I don't know, not name calling, but there's and I don't know if I'm sure you've seen it too on social media, whatever. But I know I've seen some big name libertarians go at it, and it's just like, you know, aren't you guys supposed to be on the same side? But you guys are acting like one's, you know, Hitler and the other one's supposed to be Gandhi or some bullshit. I don't know. It's fucking weird.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's also another problem in like the libertarian universe, which I mean, I'm sure is similar to other spheres or niches, but libertarians are, especially celebritarians, are very prone to become I guess I wouldn't say welfare whores.
How dare you?
But there is a large group of libertarians. I'm not going to call out names, but some who host like yearly college conferences, where their only profession is lobbying for private subsidy is in theory to preach ideas, but I guess for me personally, when I see that there's no evolution in strategy on how they go about that, and it's just a constant redirecting of money to, you know, whoever is new on the platform, whoever's the new president of the Libertarian Party or what the fuck ever, whoever's the new hot person on the YouTube sphere, it kind of makes you a little bit black-pilled, I guess, on the idea of like a lot of libertarian institutions in particular really working towards the goal. Like, for example, I'll throw this one out, and I hope you guys don't take offense, but Turning Point USA, I remember back in the day, like way back when, where I thought, okay, who knows, maybe this Turning Point USA, you know, thing might actually have some decent stuff going. Mm-hmm. Then you realize that they're literally just they're literally just cleaning money for donors who have nothing better to do but invest in some rich, snotty little prick and his one-hit wonder girl who fumbled a Kanye. I don't know how you do that.
Man, how dare you?
I don't know. I am very cynical on the state of libertarian activism as a whole, but there is hope.
Well, Turning Point USA, I wouldn't consider them libertarian at all, though.
Sure they're not, but they definitely frolic in the same group. Like they're Turning Point USA, you can see as an analogy of every other like libertarian organization pretty much that has like a booth at a libertarian conference. They're all the same shit to me.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. That was kind of fucked up, what happened with Kanye. I mean, I really don't know. Like the whole situation with him, I really didn't have one concrete opinion on him, but I think just him doing what he did, even if, because one minute he's praising Candace Owens and then the next minute he's praising Emma Gonzalez. And it's funny to think about it, but him praising Candace Owens, there's a certain group of people who are like, oh my God, Kanye's a free thinker. And then the minute he praises Emma Gonzalez, crickets.
Yeah. Like Kanye's little moment, I guess, was it was really bizarre. Like I don't think anybody really knew quite what was going on. Of course, you had the same people who were like, "Oh, he's one of us. He's full MAGA. Like he's the next base guy, black guy, or something like that." And Candace Owens, like, "Oh, he likes the way I think," and she's like, it's really ironic. I'm really glad that's what caused their relationship to end, if anything. It wasn't ideological differences. It wasn't she was too milquetoast for him, or she was too right wing for him, or anything like that. It was just the fact that she tried to profit off of his brand without his consent via Turning Point USA. Like she literally thought she was going to have an entire like social campaign off of one guy who she should have been grateful to be in his graces. I don't know. Hopefully she learns a lesson in that, but we can only hope.
So what do you think about the whole Blackset thing then, or whatever they call it?
I haven't heard much about it since Kanye said he wasn't down. I'm sure she's still working on it, but
yeah.
To be honest, I'm pretty sure Charlie Kirk is figuring out a way to either restructure Candace's brand, or he's probably going to have to let her go. Because if this Brexit thing doesn't work out, she's going to lose the conservative thought war to Tommy Lauren.
Oh man, that's crazy. If it actually happens, like that was kind of funny when they were fighting on Twitter. It's just like, wow, two quote unquote conservative women going at it, and you're just like,
see,
okay,
all groups have their own problems.
That is true. But the thing though, and maybe I'm wrong, but from just my experience, to me it seems like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, T, but it seems that libertarians are more, and this is like really like going crazy, but like they're more open to people's criticisms, I guess, because and this is like not obviously 100%, because there are libertarians that I see, if you criticize them even one time, they're like, how dare you, you're a crazy person, and all that stuff. But I don't know, do you think I'm wrong in that? Like, do you think they're at least more open to that criticism, or do you think I'm like way off?
No, I think for the most part they are, unless they're left libertarians or like establishment shills. They're pretty close-minded. But more classical libertarians, I think, are more open-minded. I think that's one campaign point that I think libertarians, particularly the like real national libertarian party, should consider. Not running on like good tax policy or even marijuana legalization, because most Democrats and Republicans alike are kind of leaning more so on paper to that. Right. That's not going to really be a bargaining point long term. But I think really the fact that libertarians are actually, like, for the most part, genuinely like good people, I think that's a really good campaigning point. Like, I think most people in their life, if they can say like, oh, I know so and so and they're a libertarian, more often they're generally a good person. At least from my experience of libertarians I've met.
I think also if libertarians were to hold more, I guess, government positions, they would be more open to being like held to the fire. Like if they do something, they have to justify what they're doing, right? As opposed to hiding it. Maybe I'm just being naive, but it seems like that, especially with Larry Sharp's campaign. He seemed pretty open
Right. Like, if you're a libertarian saying all this anti-government stuff, and then you're in a government position, you're like, yeah, government should do this and do that. And you're like, wait a minute, hold on a second. You're being completely contradicting.
Which is the most autistic thing ever. And I'm not gonna lie, I used to be that way.
Yeah.
Like, I remember like when I was like really young, and I started on the libertarian thing, and I remember I got fired from my job, and my mom was hassling me to go collect unemployment, and I was like, no, I'd rather just not pay rent. not like, yeah, don't get to that point. If somebody's calls you a hypocrite for partaking in the state or using the state to your advantage, I mean, to me, that's a waste of time. Now, if you want to criticize them on whether or not they're being effective, I think that's a valid criticism. But just talking shit about them because they're like violating your like moral axioms and whatnot just doesn't make sense. Like, come on.
You can become Bubbles from The Wire.
That is a good reference.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You were going to say something?
Oh, no, I wasn't you.
Oh, you're looking at me like, I got something to say. So, so kind of going back to, because you're talking about the Black community and like your advocacy for them. Someone on Twitter that replied to the tweet that I had about asking you any questions that anyone had. So I'm just going to read it verbatim.
Sure.
Ask him what changes would need to occur for the Black community to abandon consumerism in favor of cultural values that encourage longevity and stability, and what groups within the Black community would have the biggest effect leading that change through example.
The group in the Black community that would have the biggest effect would be African Americans. But in regards to what was the first part of the question?
What changes would need to occur for the Black community to abandon consumerism in favor of cultural values that encourage longevity and stability?
Ironically, I would probably say cultural values that motivate longevity and stability would have to become consumerists. Basically, I think Black people would have to be sold these ideas. I don't think they're going to achieve them by via lecture or study, or even a lot of people try and pursue it via religion, and like we have to have stronger campaigns via church and things like that. I don't even think that's going to work anymore. I think people have to get to the point to where that if you want to sell, particularly the Black community, on any idea, it has to let's see, how do I want to phrase this? It has to be a not necessarily a product, but it has to make them feel that it's worth it. They have to have a connection to want a reason to pursue that. And I think a lot of people's motivations these days are implicitly consumerist, meaning nobody's really going. People will more likely go to the dentist and get their teeth cleaned so they can take a selfie on Instagram than because hygiene is a good character quality and it's good for longevity in your health and whatnot. So I think selling these ideas as it's good, but I'm not selling it to you because it's good necessarily. I'm going to figure out a new marketing point as to why you should want to do this thing. I think that's coming in with like thought shaming on Instagram. I think that's one thing that's kind of shifting, like not only African Americans, but like men and women from like promiscuity, single motherhood. I pray to God Amber Rose continues to take L's from what's his name? Jesse Lee Peterson. Oh my God, those were
yeah, okay. Yeah.
But yeah.
And then the second part, and you may have answered already, but just kind of go over it again. What groups within the Black community would have the biggest effect leading that change through example?
Yeah, I guess I did say Black Americans.
Okay.
And I guess the reason I answered that so fast is just because I don't think any other Black demographic, one has the I guess in terms of like globally, the cultural weight behind them, or the cultural they don't have a big enough impact. They're way big enough. So I think, Black Americans are the only people who, one, have that culture to sell to the world. B, they're the only ones who have the size and, population size wise, as well as financial ability to pursue these things long term, not only in terms of their immediate wealth, but also, taking advantage of American infrastructure and things like that.
Yeah, they do have a big platform. So
yeah, so and also I think like as far as like a lot of African nations, things like that, I think they're still trying to secure economic stability on like to the point that Black Americans do have it. And even though Black Americans aren't all the way there, I think by comparison, they're pretty well off in comparison to Black populations around the rest of the world.
So it must annoy you then when you see, or maybe not, I don't know, but a lot of Black Americans, they talk about how they're oppressed, and and maybe they have experiences to where they do feel that way, but like you said, they're better off here than say anywhere else in the world. So it's kind of weird, because maybe in a way you get I don't know, maybe you should just actually like move them to somewhere else to be like, see, you have it better here than there. I don't know, it's like a crazy thought experiment, I suppose, but I don't know what.
Yeah, I really don't entertain those ideas anymore. Like not those ideas, but those type of people who have the mindset of, I'm oppressed, or woe is me, I'm failing because of the system, or because orange man bad, racist Trump, shit like that. Like to those type of people, I really would just say, like, what you telling me for? Like, what do you expect me to do about it? Society is racist. Oh, we live in this white supremacist society, and everything is systemically against you, and you feel marginalized as a minority. Oh, well, I'm sorry. But either at that point, you're either asking me for charity, which they're basically saying like, yeah, bro, white man got me down, let me hold $1. Like, same shit. Like, no, or you're saying you actually want to try and find tangible solutions to address these problems, in which case I'm willing to, at least have the discussion. The people who simply whine for the sake of whining and just like get retweets on Twitter and shit, don't really fuck with them.
So I'm going to ask another question from the tweet that we ask people to submit their questions. I'm just going to read it off. It says, I have a question. How does it make T feel that his audience is mostly exclusively non-Black people? And I don't even know if that's true or not, but go ahead.
It is. It's probably in accordance to like, it'll probably be in the same ratio as like the population size of America, or the demographic ratio. Mm-hmm. So I have about the same amount of white people as, we have in America. Probably a little more. I think probably like 75% white. As my YouTube demographics. And the thing is, that never really bugged me. Like that was never really something that I focused on or I felt any type of way about. Mm-hmm. However, I think something interesting I experienced after I started getting popular on YouTube was when I actually started visiting and attending actual libertarian conferences. I talked about this in a video before, but kind of like only in my mid to later years on like throughout my YouTube career, did I actually start to interact with white people, like socially, like on a regular level. Mm-hmm. Not so much as like talking online, but as far as like real life, like hanging out. Because I grew up in a predominantly Black area. I never avoided white people, but just so happened that I found myself around Black people more often than not.
Mhm.
So that was probably the biggest thing for me in having a primary white audience, is because I realized that a lot of people agreed with my ideas and valued my take on things. But one, it took me through the as you guys probably saw, the little fashy phase where like pretty much every other video was like white nationalism,
Yeah.
ethno state, this that shit. So I had to, of course, to examine like, okay, so is it a biological reason that my ideas vibe with this particular group of people? And I think that's probably true to some extent. But also, I guess the next thing I'm trying to figure out is it my communication style? So obviously in my videos, I try to articulate myself as well as possible. I cite sources, I try to be it's pretty much like watching a political in any it's a standard political type video.
Mhm.
But the most people, for example, in my immediate like in my life, don't really watch that type of stuff. They're more inclined to watch, I don't know, like Vlad TV or something like that,
Right.
which is kind of like like rapper interviews and stuff, or like Breakfast Club or these hip hop podcasts or ESPN or anything else.
Yeah.
And on those platforms, you can notice the communication style is different. It's a little bit more strategically tailored to whatever demographic is, watching them. So I'm curious to see if I change my delivery format of my ideas, will I have better results across like demographics racially? And also, would I have worse results with white people, for example, if I started tailoring the videos towards more black? So I'll let you guys know the results.
Yeah, you should. I think that'd be funny if you did that, just to do videos like that and see how your demographics would change.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just don't even tell anyone. Just be like, yeah, I'm gonna start doing this type of videos, and then just keep doing them
Right.
for about 3 months or so, and see how that goes, and then that'd be kind of a good experiment. So what has changed in your mindset with libertarians and anarcho-capitalists, even from the beginning of this year to now? Like, what would you say has been like the biggest difference from where you are in terms of like your mind, your thinking, and all that?
Well, I guess before that, like probably 2 years ago, my biggest I guess ideological change was kind of like rejecting the idea of equality, like on an absolute level. I made a video about that, and so this year, I would probably say rejecting universalism as an absolute. So I'm of the position that I don't believe in the universal valuation of rights. And that is kind of like the main thing that's kind of has me in a position to where I'm not sure if I would classify myself as a libertarian anymore. And for example, to elaborate like what I mean by that, let's say there's a Westboro Baptist Church guy on, a college campus talking shit to like yelling at a I don't know, fucking veteran's funeral or something.
Right.
Mhm.
If somebody granted, this is his free speech, it's a public place. He can say whatever he wants. He has the right. Granted, if somebody was to go over and try to violate his rights by kicking his ass, I probably wouldn't feel inclined, or I wouldn't feel that I would get any value in defending his rights at that point. Because you could say, as far as like the standard, you don't want to set that precedent of violence against people who you disagree with. However, I think there's always levels to how much you're willing to set that precedent. Like I'm probably more invested in countering the precedent of violence against right-wing thoughts than I am violence against Westboro Baptist Church members, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people would say that's contradictory to libertarianism, because libertarianism is supposed to be like a universal philosophy. All human rights should be respected.
Right.
And again, in an abstract thinking, abstract ways of thinking, I think that would probably be true. However, in terms of practically, what you're going to do about defending these persons' rights, I don't think anybody truly is at a point to where they're willing to go 100% in defense of all everyone's right to everything. I think, for example, like most right wingers are probably more interested in defending their gun rights, for example, than defending the rights of, I don't know, LGBT people to have, like, all gender bathrooms or some shit.
Mm-hmm. So like that, I mean, well, the example you just gave, it's kind of more like what is more immediate to their interest. But to the Westboro Baptist Church example, it kind of seems like whatever is more culturally accepted, I guess. So it's like determined by the culture of what's considered
true. And not only as far as like what's immediate in terms of the personal interest, like, of course, like I wouldn't get any value of, getting into a fight over a Westboro Baptist Church member getting their ass kicked.
Yeah.
They can handle that thing on their own. But also, I think, on a grander scale, in terms of like what's practically, better for liberty. I think that, if you have, for example, so much hours in a day, so much means to dedicate to liberty. And let's say, for example, you had two major things that were going on right now. An incredibly hard push by progressives for gun control, let's say like post-mass shooting or something like that,
mm-hmm.
versus, some guy getting arrested on a cocaine charge. Sure, you could direct all of your energy to assisting that guy, but more than likely, you're probably going to do a cost-benefit analysis and say that on a grander scale, like as far as like, if I could make a change, which one will be more valuable to what I want in the world? Like, liberty is a value that you hold, and I think gun rights are probably a big part of securing that. Then you're probably going to, work towards fighting against gun control versus trying to fight to get this guy, or fight to legalize cocaine or some shit like that.
So do you feel that gun rights, do you feel like that is a natural right, or no? Because to me, it seems like what you're saying is that people are going to react differently, and we can't control how someone's going to react, because, like you were saying, libertarians are all about, the non-aggression principle and, and all this other stuff, whatever. You can't really control how someone's going to, like, if someone's like, like at a Westboro Baptist Church protest, whatever, and they're the one that gets beat up on. If I saw my friend get beat up by someone from that Westboro group, whatever, I'd probably be inclined to also do something. But of course, maybe it's because my friend, it's, I got to.
It's not because, even if your friend threw the first blow, it's not necessarily because like, oh, you're not going to jump and try to, start beating on your friend because he's the aggressor per se.
Right.
I mean, in certain situations, like if your friend is like shooting up a children's hospital, like, yeah, sorry, buddy, got to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's just like a bar fight, you're probably going to stand by your homie. And I think actually that's something that libertarians lack. That type of solidarity in, knowing that, even if this guy is going about trying to do something, that if we have the same end goal, but he's going about it a way that morally I probably wouldn't do it. I think libertarians find that they have a greater responsibility to counter signal that and make sure that libertarian doesn't do it the wrong way, than figuring out better ways of how they can do it the right way.
Do you think that's a bad or a good thing, or not any way necessarily?
Probably a bad thing, because it just means that if for every one person that's doing libertarianism wrong, or doing, being a bad libertarian, there's 10 other libertarians who feel that it's their life's mission that whole week to explain how this other person is a bad libertarian, which I don't think adds much value to the greater idea of making the world a freer place.
Yeah, that's true.
And it seems to me that I think that's one of the reasons why when someone was a libertarian and then they switch to being whatever other ideology they become. I think that's one of the reasons why is because they go, well, being a libertarian isn't very pragmatic, I guess, in real life. Maybe I'm completely talking shit. I don't know.
We talked to too many people who have went from libertarianism to conservatism.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, there's been a big shift in that, and I mean, I don't buy the fact that libertarianism isn't pragmatic or practical or anything like that. I think people are lazy, and if your primary personal interest, again, in terms of like rejecting the universal valuation of rights, if your main interest is like securing the border, you have a substantially greater chance of success in achieving that by becoming a Republican and lobbying for conservative interests than you do, being a part of the Libertarian Party. So I think a lot of people just kind of realize that, damn, I actually sure, I would want everybody to be free, but in the immediate sense of what value I'm going to get out of any of this, I'll probably get more value. I'm thinking in terms of a conservative. They're probably thinking I'll probably get more value in joining the Trump train and lobbying to close the border versus than I would value, talking about how taxation is theft or, anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So with universal evaluation of rights, and maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but to me it seems like, because you say you're not really in that ballpark anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because you're looking at now in just an individual individual situation or whatever, in terms of, okay, so this basic right doesn't apply to this particular situation, or am I like completely going over your head or something, or over my head? I don't know.
That could be one way of going about it, but typically, like, the way I justify the thought process is just imagine if you were, the only libertarian on an island of 10. You have 4 people over here, trying to redistribute all the coconuts and, I don't know, fucking make sure that the ocean is not misgendered or what the fuck ever. You have the other group of people who are like, trying to hoard all the coconuts and also kill the one brown guy over there in the corner who's just chilling. And you're like the only libertarian in the group. How would you go about creating a freer society? If that was your society, what would be your course of action? And to be honest, it probably wouldn't be, writing on, stones or fucking slabs about, good arguments to hand out to the guys who are like killing each other.
Yeah.
So in that type of situation, would you be, because obviously everyone's going to have different ideologies and different ways of thinking. Would you just be okay with, like with socialists having their own, I guess, ethno state or utopia, and because that's another thing about libertarians being a utopia philosophy. So would you be okay with, socialists having their own utopia and libertarians having their own utopia? Or
yeah, and just to make a point on that real quick. I hate that like bullshit of like libertarianism is the only utopian ideology. Every ideology is utopian in the end goal. Like, I don't think anybody is thinking of ways that their ideology, that they want their ideology to fail. Everybody wants a ideal in society. To say that libertarians are idealistic or utopian simply because we have like straightforward suggestions on how to resolve certain situations, I think is pretty stupid. But sorry, I think I forgot the second part of your question.
I think it was like, wasn't it something as if one group of people wants to do something on their own, then they can go do that under.
Oh, right.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
I think that's one big thing that libertarians are pretty good on. The idea of secession, of trying to make better ways for people to disassociate. I think that's one thing that probably I'll probably say is probably the most useful way of like actually pushing liberty today, aside from like cultural influence, is figuring out ways for people to, you know, be less collective, I guess. Like figuring out ways for people to, you know, form their own communities, you know, pursue their own paths without, you know, finding ways to minimize conflict among groups. And some people, everybody has their own suggestions to that, some good, some bad. But I think libertarians need to definitely be explicit in admitting that that is probably the best course of action in terms of like peaceful solutions, like in terms of any problem that we have. You know, you're going to have the Republican or the Democrat saying, you know, like, oh, we should do this, this, and that this way, or that, and this, that way. But I think acknowledging, I think if any libertarian that just got on stage and acknowledged like the fact that like, hey, let's be honest, we all like to some extent like kind of hate each other, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not the like as a country, we're not the best of friends. Like sure, if we have another fucking terrorist attack, we're all going to, you know, like turn on whatever news station and, you know, sing the national anthem and love each other for like a week.
Right.
But you know, I think just acknowledging that reality and, you know, as far as like not being utopian, not believing this bullshit idea that, you know, like, oh, you know, America the Great, you know, like as long as you're a red blood American and you have your social security card, you know, you're one of us, your family, and realizing that life is a little bit more complicated than that. We obviously have disagreements, big and small, on how we want to pursue, you know, continue to pursue life. And, you know, it would be better if we could find a way to both have what we want in life without having to kill the other person. So that would be something I would probably suggest people promote, is the idea of like disassociation, voluntary secession, and stuff like that. Make it more mainstream, I guess.
Yeah, so in the chat, the Renegade of Funk, how are you doing, man? So he said libertarians are utopian just like communists because their ideology is divorced from the reality of human nature. What do you think about that?
I think they're incorrect. I don't think the ideology itself is divorced from human nature. I don't think the ideology, or I don't think the people in the ideology always account for human nature. I think the ideology itself is pretty straightforward as far as, you know, I guess he's kind of going it as far as like, you know, like everybody's not going to, you know, be voluntary, or some people are going to do this, or some people are going to, you know, violate the NAP and stuff. I don't think anybody, I've yet to hear a person who thinks that there will ever be a society like that. It's just really a matter of, yeah, maybe some people will behave in ways that other people find immoral. The only question is what we would be willing to do about that. Some people, you know, for like get back to the practicality, some people, you know, are kind of, you know, like, yeah, it's not that serious to me. You know, I don't really have, you know, a huge stake in trying to correct this bad, you know, moral behavior. Other people are, you know, ready to go to the grave, you know, fighting to ensure that this immoral behavior doesn't continue. I think that's just how life works. I don't think either group, communist or libertarian, is utopian. Now, granted, if you think that, if you're just hoping that these ideas are going to somehow come into play and make society great, yeah, that's probably pretty utopian. But again, I don't think anybody's really striving for perfection. I think we're just striving for what we want. And I think libertarians, you know, to bypass the utopian stagnant point, just need to really figure out ways, not of trying to be the best libertarians, but actually trying to win, even if that means sacrificing on, you know, your moral ideal.
So I think it was Dave Smith that said this on his podcast, but I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was him. He said something about when Larry Sharpe was running for governor of New York, and he was saying, yeah, I have a chance to win. I can win this thing. And I had he had this really upbeat attitude about his campaign, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
That was the way he decided to run his campaign, and more power to him. And we had him on for a live stream as well, and we got to hear his ideas and all that. But then when the results came, I believe I don't even think he got 2% of the vote.
It was 1.6%.
Okay, yeah, 1.6.
Yeah.
So I think basically the win, if you want to look at it, kind of look at it in an optimistic way, was that Libertarians, I guess, are now officially on the ballot for New York. So look at that however you want.
Mm-hmm. We still elected a socialist, but at least we were on the ballot, guys.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so what Dave said, and he said something along the lines of, if he had kind of, I guess, two choices to go about it. The way that he did go about it in terms of being upbeat, and I have a chance to win, or just say, guys, I have no chance of winning this thing, but let me be real and let me be upfront about what's going on in terms of our government and how we can make it better. And I
kind of like what Ron Paul did.
Yeah, because basically kind of saying, okay, I have zero chance of winning this, but here are my ideas that I believe can make New York better, or just in general, and kind of going about it that way. And I think if someone, and obviously with Larry Sharpe, his campaign was won well, whatever. But I think if someone maybe did go about it that way, I think maybe they would have been able to reach people more, because if you look at it more realistically in terms of saying there's absolutely no way, at least as of right now, that I'm going to beat a Democrat or Republican in the polls or, anything, and being whatever office I'm running for, maybe they have a better chance of winning. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think they need to be more realistic in their approach, because I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
yeah, I would say so too. I really don't know what like people in like the Libertarian Party are really hoping to get out of these 1 to 2, 3% turnout, and declaring them like major victories. I think a lot of it is really just rent seeking, to be honest. Probably just some. I'm not making this accusation in regards to Larry Sharpe directly, by the way.
Yeah.
But just the general idea of a lot of people in libertarian politics. There's a lot of money involved, nowhere near to the amount of like Republicans or Democrats, but there's still probably like $3, $4, $5 million campaigns, and somebody with a team of friends can probably split that around pretty nicely during campaign season. And even if they lose with their 3%, they can declare that the biggest win in Libertarian Party history,
right,
and still walk away with like 1.2 in their bank account. My buddy Judd Weiss, who was running for VP of the Libertarian Party back in 2016 on the McAfee ticket, actually had a few videos talking about some of that corruption. So yeah, I don't even though like some of these guys in the LP are like really good guys, and like I really like I would want them to win, but it's just not worth it. There's just not enough value that they're giving tangibly libertarians who are supporting their campaigns. There's just not enough value that they're giving to warrant people investing really any energy in supporting their campaign. They're not pushing the envelope enough to really generate a discussion. I mean, Gary Johnson had the perfect opportunity. I mean, at least he was a meme. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
If you're not even a meme, how do you expect somebody to actually be listening to your policy? They're just really not a part of the conversation. They're really only conversing amongst other libertarians. So I'm not really that hopeful for the party in terms of like actually bringing change towards liberty.
Okay. So a couple more questions that they're going to be more lighthearted.
Mhm.
and we end the live stream with the same question. So I don't know if you've seen any of our live streams, so you kind of probably know where we're going with this.
Now, granted, I'm a cynical son of a bitch, so I don't know how lighthearted it's going to be.
Well, I guess we'll call it lighthearted, but take it however you want. Whether it's a rectal examination or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, anyway, so do you prefer Coke or Pepsi? Or neither?
Coke, but only on the butts of my women.
It's like I like my coffee how I like my women.
Yeah, but nah, probably it's a funny question. I'm trying to think. Like, if I just had to get one out of this, I'd probably go Pepsi, unless it's vanilla Coke. Vanilla Coke is the shit. Other than that, probably Pepsi.
I don't even like soda at all, but that sounds good right now.
Yeah, it does actually. So the next question is with alcohol, what's your favorite beer?
Right now, my typical go-to is Blue Moon. I really like the Blue Moon Mango. I like wheat beers, actually, I've noticed. But I think my favorite beer, I can't think of a brand particularly, but my favorite type of beer would be sour beers. Yeah, like the sour the better. Like really it's like tongue twisting like beers are fucking delicious to me.
Well, the next time, whenever we do meet, I'll have to buy you a sour beer because I love sour beer too. Whoop, whoop.
There we go.
All right. So the last question: pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes. Anyone who says no is going to be not only deported from the ethno state, but well, I don't know. You might be able to seek refuge in the Hapa ethno state. I don't know what their position on it is.
Well, for us personally, we're pineapple on pizza advocates. So
okay, cool. So we'll be allies. Hapa ethno state, black ethno state, we're cool.
There you go.
So glad, because every time we have someone who says no, we're like, well, see how this is going.
I know, right?
Yes.
So actually, one more question for real this time.
Yeah.
I mentioned Bubbles from The Wire. What's your favorite episode?
Ooh.
I know there's a
yeah. I don't know if I can think of the particular name of the episode, but it's the episode where
and spoilers.
Is it? Yeah, spoiler alert. Is it the episode where Bubbles gets shot? How did Bubbles die actually?
I don't think he dies. He doesn't die actually.
He almost died.
Okay, so not
there is an episode in the 5th season where he attempts to hang himself.
If that's what you're thinking.
And I don't know if that's what you're thinking of. But I don't remember him getting shot. He might have. I don't remember.
Just give me 3 seconds. I'm looking through the cast. Okay, so
I don't just look it up right now too, but
Bodhi, the episode when Bodhi got shot.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That was a harsh episode. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Even though he was a snitch, I was like, I was going for Bodhi.
Yeah, that episode's crazy because that's kind of that one episode you're like, oh man, Bodhi might actually become something. And then of course they pull that carpet under you.
Actually, scary enough, that was probably one of the most like intense episodes for me because like just the way he died was kind of like really hyper realistic. Like just nervous, random, started, quick shootout and just boom. Like
there was I'm sorry to interrupt, but there was someone that made the connection where in the first season, how when D'Angelo was kind of teaching him how to play chess, he's teaching Wallace, Wallace, his death. Whew. Michael B. Jordan, by the way, I mean, big star.
Yeah.
A lot of good stars actually from the show. Idris Elba.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
The cast.
Yeah. But yeah, so like when they were teaching him chess and all that and talking about bishops, and how they move and all that, the way that Bodhi was shooting before he died, he was shooting diagonally like he was a bishop. So in a way, it was like he kind of like promoted himself, I guess, from being just a pawn to a bishop because in a way he was kind of leading that corner.
I see.
Yeah, it was weird because every time I look at that scene, I go, yeah, he is kind of shooting diagonally because he's not shooting straight. He's not shooting sideways. He's shooting diagonally. You're like, interesting. Yeah.
I love the fact that directors are probably putting together all these, like things that people have put, the connections people have put together, you know, like 10 years down the line, and they're like, yep, that was the intended goal. Like nobody other than like cinema buffs are gonna like figure something like that out. But
yeah,
I guess that's how you get the Grammy.
I know, right? That show, oh man, it's so good. I don't like anytime someone has a show that you know they want to watch, I go, you gotta watch The Wire, at least the first season, because so good. Yeah, but so anyway, we can talk about The Wire like all day. But anyway, so anyway, we'll go ahead and end the live stream. Thank you so much, T, for joining us. It's been a lot of fun, and I think our heads exploded at least 3 times. So
yeah.
So,
all right,
thank you for having me on, guys.
Yeah, no problem. We'll have to maybe do it again. Maybe you will. Anyway, we'll never mind. So anyway, so yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us, and we will see you next time. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.